Hey folks, it's Nate, and you might remember that a couple months back I picked up the Yeswelder CUT-55DS, had an issue or two with it during the unboxing and initial setup video, and I cut a couple things. I've gotten a little bit of experience with it, and I fixed the issues that I had with it, so I thought I'd record a quick update video to sort of update you guys on what I think about this thing now that I've actually had a little bit of time with it, and I've fixed the little issues that I had. So stay tuned if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the Yeswelder CUT-55DS. Alright, so first you might remember that the unit was leaking air when I first plugged it in to my compressor. Well, I have it plugged into the compressor right now, and you might notice there's no air leaking out of this thing. I contacted Yeswelder after making that video, and I told them about the issue I was having. They sent me a couple of how-to videos that maybe I could try to fix this myself, and they helped. I basically took the cover off of this thing. I found one air fitting inside. They're one of these sort of press-fit air fittings. They're the same ones that are on the back of the unit on the regulator / water filter here, or water catch. One of them just wasn't seated right. I pressed it in a little bit tighter, and bam, airtight. So that issue is fixed. No more leak coming out of this system. You can hear right now it's pressurized. The other somewhat related issue that I had was that the air regulator on the machine wouldn't fit with the bracket they gave me. I fixed that as well. So you might recall this little bracket right here. When I mounted it properly, when I mounted it the way that it fit, that the regulator fit the little notch that was in it, it wouldn't clear the power connector here. So basically what I did is I took the bracket and I took the little key that was on it and I bent it the other way and I bolted it on upside down, and then I was able to put the regulator into the bracket like it's supposed to be, and here you are. It fits. No more clearance problem with the inlet from my 110 here, the power inlet. This fits just fine. The hose fits just fine. Everything's good to go. So that's solved as well. Now, those are the only two problems I had with this thing, and they're both solved. So I did send Yeswelder feedback about this bracket, so hopefully they will fix that in a future release. I don't know. All right, so the other thing I wanted to do in this video is, in the last video I recorded about the CUT-55, was basically when I unboxed it and whatnot, and I cut some very rudimentary, I just basically made some holes in things to see how the thing worked. Since then, I've used it for two things. One is I have these big cabinet doors, these metal, they were from an old server chassis, that I've been trying to get rid of, and I finally decided instead of getting rid of them, I'm going to cut them down for storage, and I'll keep them as, they're steel plate, basically. They're very thin sheet. So my intention is to keep them around, and if I ever need some sheet for a project, I'll have it, right? The other thing is, you might notice behind me here is a new garage door. I used to have that wooden garage door with the windows in it. Now I have a nice steel garage door. Well, during the install of that, we had to cut down the tracks on the side, and I used the plasma cutter to do that, and it worked phenomenal. I've already cut up one of these cabinet sheets. I'm going to cut up the other one right now on video, so you guys can see how this thing works. All right, so here's the sheet I want to cut up. It's basically some, I don't know how thick it is, but it's not thick at all. It is steel, it's painted. The last one I cut up, I did not grind off the paint first. Maybe that would make it better, maybe it wouldn't, I don't know. But basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to line myself up a guide, and then I'm going to clamp the guide down, and then I'm going to cut across this thing in just a straight line. I did find that cutting with a guide is a lot easier than cutting freehand. Maybe that's just me. Maybe you have a steadier hand than I do. Cutting without the guide, I ended up wandering all over the damn place. And it's really easy to do because this thing does cut through steel like butter if you have it at the right setting, you have enough amps, and you have thin enough steel. One thing I want to caveat here is I have not yet gotten my 220 in the shop rewired to work with the CUT-55. That's coming soon because I have another product from Yeswelder that will be coming up very soon in another video that also needs a new 220 line. So the old line over here from my welder, which you've seen me use in countless videos where I've used my old Clark, is going to get ripped out and redone at a slightly higher amp and a different plug. So that'll be coming soon, and then I'll be able to use this thing at 220 and maybe give it a review on some thicker material than just this little plate. So let's get this guard lined up, and then we're going to go from there. So basically, this gun, the torch, whatever you want to call it, has a guide on it. And this guide is to keep you from contacting the steel with the tip on the torch, right? So that's to help the tip on the torch last longer. Now the machine did come with new tips, but of course I want the tips to last as long as I can make them last. So I'm not going to fiddle with that. I'm going to keep the guard on until I'm good enough with this thing that I can sort of hover at the right height. I'm not there yet. So the one thing it does do is make it nice and easy to set up your guide, right? So this guard has these prongs on it. Line your guide up so that the prong, so you have room for the prong, and the tip is right over your line. Now I've measured a 25-inch line right here, and then another one, because this whole thing is 75 inches. Okay, with that lined up, I'm just going to take one of these C-clamps and clamp it down. Obviously I can use a smaller C-clamp. I can hear the comments already. Why are you using such an enormous C-clamp? It's what I have at hand, so that's what I'm using. Now you do the same thing on that end, and then we can do our cut. Okay, now that I have both sides clamped down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the torch and I'm going to run along the guide and make sure there's no interference, there's no spots that feel weird. This is all just me being extra cautious. You may not have to do this every cut. I'm being careful. Now bear in mind, at the moment the machine is plugged in, but I have not even turned it on yet. And that's mainly because this trigger I have found is real sensitive. It takes almost no pressure to switch this thing. That's one of my real only complaints remaining about this machine, is that this trigger, you could just be repositioning and it's real easy to bump. So I recommend holding it like this when you're moving around with it when it's turned on, because this trigger is so easy to bump. Okay, we are spot on with the marks I made. I think it's time to cut. Just going to go over a little bit of my safety gear. You might remember in my review video when I first unboxed it, I made my first cuts wearing a pair of freaking shorts and running shoes and a t-shirt. And I said in that video, I do not recommend that. I'm making good on that promise now. Long pants, I've got some thicker sneakers on. Maybe you want to wear leather work boots, even better. I've got a jean jacket on. It's not a welding coat, but it's better than nothing. I found that this Miller weld mask that I was sent by a fan has a mode on it for cut, which is great to protect my eyes because the welding masks, the welding helmets that I have were a little too dark for this. So this has a cut mode on it. I've been using this every time I've been doing cuts and it's working out great. So I'm going to use this today and these Miller multi-purpose gloves that I've got. So let's go. Plasma cutter, if you're not familiar with a plasma cutter, it uses a similar setup to a welder where you've got a ground clamp. The gun uses the material you're cutting to complete the circuit, makes an arc. The arc heats up the material enough that it then blows compressed air through to blow out the steel in the middle, and that's how it makes its cuts. Really fast, really bright, which is why we need the mask. There you go. One pretty darn straight cut, considering it took me all of 5 minutes. Not a bad little piece of equipment. So there you go, folks. Just a quick video about the CUT-55DS. I gotta say that being very new to plasma cutters, I'm pretty happy with how this one works. We'll see how long it lasts. You know, longevity-wise, what am I looking at here? I don't know. The machine, which I covered in my initial video about it, was about $350. Again, paid out of pocket. This was not a gift from Yeswelder. So I purchased this item, and this is a completely honest review of the thing. So far, I'm very happy with it. Everything that I have put in front of it that was within reason, it cut very well. I do have problems with it tripping the breaker on my 110 circuits, which is why I'm looking forward to getting it onto 220. When I cut this, I had the dial set almost as low as it goes. It goes from 10 to 55. I don't know if those are amps or what. I assume it's amps. But at 15, I had it set to cut this relatively thin stuff here. See it? I don't know how well you can make that out in the video, but it's really thin material. And like I said, it is painted, so I'd imagine that some of that was eaten up in getting through the paint. And I did have to grind down the paint where I put the ground clamp, which you can't see what I'm pointing at. Where I clamped the ground clamp on, I had to grind off the paint, otherwise it wasn't making a circuit, which obviously it won't work if there's no circuit. So, at any rate, that's a long-winded way to say I'm pleased with the CUT-55DS so far. Come early next year, that is January, February timeframe, I intend to start working on the JK bumper I've been promising you guys, and this CUT-55DS is going to play a big part in that project. So it's going to get a lot more use, and you guys are going to see it in a little more action. So, hopefully, it works out well, and I'm just as pleased with it after that project as I am now. So there you have it, folks, the CUT-55DS. If you like this video, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to see me use this and other Yeswelder products a little more, because I am slowly but surely getting a shop full of Yeswelder machines. If you do want to go to Yeswelder and buy any machines or consumables or welding hoods or whatever, use the code SWBFAB for 10% off, and you help the channel out a little bit when you do so. So, with that, folks, I'm Nate. You can find me at SWBCrawler on the social medias. And if you want to help support the channel, you can do so via Patreon or via going to SWBCrawler.com, and you can pick up t-shirts or hats or neck gaiters or yoga pants. There's yoga pants now. You like yoga pants? I don't know. I thought they were fun, so I put them up there. Anyway, my point is you can support the channel that way and get yourself some merch and support me by advertising. Yes, you want to advertise for SWBCrawler, don't you? Whatever, I'm rambling. Remember, folks, get out there and wheel. I'll catch you in the next video.